Thank you. What I will talk about is what we are doing at IKEA Communication, the company where I work, and what we have been playing with when it comes to virtual reality and augmented reality, and a little bit with mixed reality, and of course meatballs. You can't do IKEA without meatballs. So, just as a start, is there anyone in here that doesn't know what IKEA does? Anyone who hasn't been in an IKEA store? Okay. Then I can jump like the 40 corporate slides. That's good. I have 3 left. So if you were here this morning, it could be interesting for you to know that IKEA has a vision that is not incorporating furniture. It's actually to create a better everyday life for the many people. And for me, who work with technology within IKEA, the many is the interesting thing. Many means that we can't do something very, very high-tech and only have it in one place in the world. It doesn't really work. So we have to make it work everywhere, otherwise it doesn't really work. Also putting us into some kind of context, I will show you some numbers. We have 403 stores in the world. We are about 200,000 people and counting. So there's a lot of people working for the IKEA brand. Last year we had 38 billion euros in turnover. It's quite a lot. And the rest you can see, about a billion visitors and a little bit more on the webpage. We are present in most parts of the world. It's easier to say where we are not. We are not in South America. And in most parts of Africa, we are not. And we are opening up in India just this year. So otherwise, India has been a blind spot for us. But in most parts of the world. And for people outside Europe, Sweden is there, and it's not Switzerland. They mix us up all the time. And that's the office where I work from. It's from the mothership in the middle of the woods in south of Sweden, where IKEA was born 70 years ago, a little more than that. 75 very soon. So I come from a company within IKEA who's called IKEA Communications. We are mostly known for the IKEA catalog. We create that one. We also put up all the information on the web page, the main page. We are also known for the assembly instructions, if you have seen them. Don't come to me afterwards, please, about those. Technically, yes. Content-wise, no. We do a lot of films, and we are about 300 employees at the company where I work. IKEA has a lot of internal companies. So now the company slides are over. So why are we interested in 3D at IKEA from the beginning? Yeah, from the beginning, the reason was really to create these. We sell a lot of combinational products. And this is a base combination for a kitchen cabinet, one. And just to create all the images for that one, we have to create more, like for all the fronts. And just for this base combination, we have to create all of these. And then we have 300 of those. So just for the kitchen range, just for US, it was 18,000 images. And that's what's one part of the range. We have a huge amount of these. And this is the reason back in 2005 why we started doing this from the beginning. And for the first year, we managed to do one image. This came out in the IKEA catalog. It was like 1 inch, or 2 centimeters, something like that. And this little group said, yay. I don't think anyone noticed. And that's the whole intention. Then we struggled all the way up to 2009, and we had the first room image in the IKEA catalog in 2009. And we also, in 2009, started to build a library of all the products we have. That was a huge endeavor. And we were able to do it all the way to 2012. So what did we do when we built the library? Yeah, we started to make a texture library. And for 3D people in here, you know what that is. And it's hard to do. And what's different with the texture library we have is that we started out already from the beginning, since 2009, doing it in 16-bit per color. We did it in real resolution, connected to real size in the world. So every texture we have has a real size information in there. And they can be quite huge because we don't repeat things, especially wood things. We have to have 1.5 meter times 2.5 or 3 meters wide. Otherwise, we can't have them on the biggest products we have. So they are quite big. Then we started building a material library that had a set scene. This we also have done all the way since 2009. We're up to almost 10,000 materials in this library. And of course, built in some value in that. And materials are nice. For those of you who have used to doing things in V-Ray, you recognize what this is. So this is a node tree kind of thing for a material we just created. You also will notice that we have started doing something here. I don't know if it's seen, but we have 2 materials in there, one at the bottom on the lower right and one in the top. So trying to do LOD levels of materials is something we just started doing. So you have one for the high-res stuff and one for the lower-res things. And material, we go into detail. If you look at this, the texture maps, or sorry, normal maps for this looks like this, and that's a bump map or thing. So if we zoom in on this, this is actually 1 by 1 centimeter up on the left there, and here is the textures made. And these are actually hand-drawn to be able to have the quality of the rendering in the end. We have just started to capture textures in a new way. So we just bought this monster of a scanner and have just started using that. This can handle 1.5 meter times 3 meters times huge resolution. So just some tests we've done is this thing. It's a 1 meter wide carpet, and if I zoom in to 10 millimeters of that, that's how it looks. And this is one of the reasons why we have a little bit of trouble running GPUs, because we fill them with one texture. I'm trying to talk to the NVIDIA guys about that. The model standard we started in 2009 makes it possible for us to have different LOD levels. We created this back then. So what you see on the left side here has about 10 centimeter accuracy. Then you have centimeter accuracy, millimeter accuracy, and 0.2 millimeter accuracy. And that's the highest resolution we do today. We are looking into going maybe 2 times, 3 times higher on the right side here for small products. I've shown our material library and how we work with that before, so I will jump into the propping. Because IKEA make images with a lot of things in there that we don't sell. So here's a look into our asset library for things that we don't sell. You find croissants, you will find other things in here that we need in the scenes, otherwise we can't create them. And here we are just looking at fruit. These are not beauty renders. This is automatic 360s made in our back end just to be able to turn them around and see them in the asset library. And here we're going for raspberries for no other reason than I like raspberries. And then we are just loading one of these raspberry things just to show you the sometimes ridiculous resolution we have to do to be able to make it look real. So since 2009, we have about 33,000 models here. I think we're up to 35 since I made this presentation. About 10,000 textures, about 10,000 materials, and we are up to about 4,000 propping in our library, and we're trying to make that even faster and more because we constantly need more. So the use of 3D models from beginning, when we started back in 2005, when we started building the library in 2009, was really, in the beginning, was number 2 here, single product rendering. That's where we have the most use. and we had it for the home planner back then. But today, we have at least these 8 different use cases. So we are trying to make one asset that works for everything, and of course that's hard. But if you have it in very high resolution, there is only the decimation problem in there to do, and that's what we're trying to do. So some numbers. If we look at room images like this, and I didn't make that point earlier, I'm not showing you anything in here that is photos, except the guy next to the scanner, and the scanner, that was actually a photo. Everything else is 3D that I'm showing you. So we do about 15,000 of these room images a year. About 25% of those are 3D today. We have a huge studio, and it works nice, so we use it for when it's best. The use case is best. Then we do about 25,000 product pictures a year, and about 50% of those are 3D today. I will come to later why not all of them, but 50% amount. And then we have these, the reason why we started from the beginning, these combinational things. And I would say everything. Everything in here is 3D because we can't cope with the numbers. Back in 2012, we did about 10,000 images a year total. The last few years, we have done over 50, 60,000 images a year with the same number of people. We have just started working with more advanced things. For the rest of the world, this is easy. For us, it's new. So starting doing animations. So this is from the library we have, starting to show function of products and how they work. So we do some of them when we people in them, and we film them, and some of them we create this way. This is just a test internally. So about 3,000 3D models a year. And yes, that thing is 3D. We have to do the herring inside to make it work, to make it look real. We are aiming for about 6,000 this year, and we are aiming even higher next year because we are trying to move into areas we haven't done before. And the areas we haven't done in 3D in the library before is these kind of things. The really complicated Radan things, the hairy things, and then the things that is not really defined how they are hanging, if you say so. So anything that is a towel, everything that is like these curtains is really hard. And just looking at the little nice guy in the middle there, the squeaky toy, this is how you build a squeaky toy our way. You will recognize how you do this, of course. A lot of people who don't know 3D don't really appreciate how much work it is in this. I hope you do. Because you have all the stitches in there, you have all the hair and everything, and then you have to have the shaders on there to make this work. We haven't started building these in numbers yet, but this is something we are aiming for very soon. We have to figure out how to do it fast. Now we just seen that we can do it. Is cute? Yeah. So going to numbers, these are the kind of things we do in numbers. And here is also the reason why we started using 3D for these kind of objects, kind of things. It's because we do these replacements. You saw that things are happening. So this is for one country, and that's for another country, because they have different appliances and taps, and they want different things. So if we were only working for one country in the world, then we probably wouldn't have started with 3D from the beginning. This is because we have to do these kind of changes for the different parts of the world. And sometimes the changes are super small. Look at the tap on the left. That's the only thing that changes in the whole image. And sometimes the changes are bigger. Let's see if we can find something here. So in one country, you will only see one of these. But if you're then looking in our library, you will find this in one country, this in one country, and this worktop in another country, and this in another country. But you see, the base is the same. So this is really the reason. And especially when we come to kitchens. I will just flip through a few more here. if my clicker works. And as I said, we need to have things that we don't sell in the images. Here you have mostly products, but here you start to see things like the bowl over here and other things that's in here. Here's also a very typical image from a kitchen, and I see the changes. If you look at the stove there, I guess it's the same. You have the cabinet there, and then the stove changes. We can do close-ups. If you've seen my talks earlier, we have things that makes it possible for us to use gravity and collision. So this is the way we fill those drawers with all the cutlery. Of course, we have to have that because it should feel lived in. More of these images. I think that's the raspberries up there. Oh, I think my Wi-Fi is on. I hope I don't get any crazy messages. Okay. Let's see if we can go to the next slide. This is interesting. If you see at the tiles at the back, they're just evening up. But when we change this stove there, we needed a slightly bigger room. This would be very hard to do in the studio. It's almost a total rebuild to do that. And even if we do digital things, a lot of things end up in a physical thing, like a brochure. So this ended up in the brochure for US, for kitchens. So this is how it looks. The prices are very low here, but that's before we send it to the country, so they set the prices. So that's why it looks like this. I will show you some more images just from the kitchen brochure, and that's one of the ones that we have most 3D in. This is all 3D. Here is a little bit of an Easter egg. Do you see an animal in here? Okay. He's living in our model bank. It's the first animal we made. It was a year ago. We are better at it now, but he's living in there. So for the technical people in here, it could be interesting to know that we try to make it easier for the 3D artists to work. So here you see the first time we are showing our internal tool we call Strawberry, where a 3D artist is getting their job. What it does is making the space on the servers. It names everything the way you want it to, and then it also helps you send the things to the render queue. So this simplifies the repetitive tasks of setting things up. Most big studios have things like this, and of course we need it too. When we have the numbers we have, you need to be able to do that. Then we have render queues, a huge amount of them, and we're running deadline to keep control of those. And then we are adding spawn renderings to those deadline headmaster queues and using the spawn rendering that V-Ray has been using for a long time. But it's been hard for us to move spawn renderers through the queues. So this is also a little tool we made to be able to have the render queues, see how many spawn renderers are in there, and then moving computers over to help the different queues. So this is load balancing, manual, but still, using the functionality in V-Ray that's been there all along. So this we've never shown before publicly, so it's not a big thing, but it makes our lives much, much easier when we're rendering. So, 3D at IKEA started back in 2005. The real volume of production started in 2012, so it took us almost 7 years of preparation before we could start doing things in volume. And now we are really doing things in large scale. So this is what we're standing on. This is the base we are at when we are starting looking into this. Real time. Doing what we're doing now, but faster. So we started with real time in 2010. This is the early versions of WebGL. Here we were trying to use a WebGL front end with some sketchy kind of thing, and then sending this data to a server in the cloud, rendering it with V-Ray, actually V-Ray standalone, and getting it back in 10 seconds. This was working. The only problem is that IKEA has too many customers on the web page. We almost needed one server waiting for every customer, and that didn't work, so it didn't scale. It could scale today, but it didn't scale in 2010. Other things we have been doing, I don't know if you remember, but we started with augmented reality in 2012. I get messages. We started with augmented reality in 2012 with the catalog as a marker. So we have been doing this since 2012. The real turn came last year when we launched IKEA Place that was connected to AR Core. And now AR Kit. AR Kit, and now AR Core with the Android launch now in March. So these things have been going on for 2 times now, and let's see if I can. No, I can't. Okay. So AR we have been using for a long time, all the way since 2012. But this is still looking at the world through a window that you move around, but it's still a window. And for me, who has been working with computer graphics since the early 1990s, it's like being on the outside of the room and never been able to step in. So for me, I had a very personal turning point. It was the 4th of December 2014 at 1:36 p.m. Pacific time. I stepped into this room and I got this ugly thing on. And that was the first time I could spend over 2 hours on the other side of the screen. The graphics wasn't beautiful, but I could stay there without getting motion sick. Everything I tried before, I had to take off after 30 seconds. But now I could stay there. And I just wanted more. And I also started thinking, oh, when this works for everyone, this will be huge. So when I stepped out of this room, it was in Seattle at Valve's office. They actually asked us if we would like to be one of the first companies getting a set. And of course I said yes. I had no clue how we were going to handle the legal stuff, but we got it through, and we got it in late January, and our first VR experience, VR1, was created back then. And we took this room, and then I invited the top manager, who I've never met before. And we had crunch time for 3 weeks. We got him in the room. We got him in the set. And you can see it's early equipment because it's white 3D printed things and cables, so everything was not working perfectly, like 3 seconds before he came. And then we got it up and running. And he's standing over at the micro, and I'm asking him here to move over to the micro and read on it. And you can see he is holding both controllers in his left hand, and the right hand is free. And I'm asking him to read, but he's so immersed, so he's actually reaching for it, and we happen to be there with the camera. When he came out of this, he said, we have to do something. This will be huge. And the first thought was, why not do what we have been doing for 40 years? On the second floor, in every store, we have showrooms. So in that sense, IKEA has been working with virtual reality for 40 years. Those showrooms, nobody lives in. So we just took that concept and moved it straight over to a virtual showroom. It's not more interesting than that. So if you spend more than 5 minutes in here, then you're actually very, very interested in this kitchen, or you are doing something else. So we tested it internally, heavy testing. We had 1,000 coworkers go through testing this with feedback. And the feedback was so positive, so we were allowed to launch it. And we launched it on Steam. Now, this audience is a little bit different, but how many here knows about what Steam is? Oh, that never happens when I talk. Especially not internally. Probably one. Then you know who's on Steam. It's not IKEA. Like people who normally go to IKEA by free will It's not the people who are on Steam. You also know that any big corporation, even the game companies on Steam, they get not super reviews and those kind of things yet. So it was a little bit scary. But we launched on Steam the 5th of April, the same day as the HTC Vive was released, at 8 a.m. in the morning. And I was expecting a few hundred downloads, maybe a few thousand total, and some feedback. We got that in a few minutes almost. It was crazy. And at 11:30, like 3.5 hours from when I pushed release, somebody downloaded, recorded, edited, and uploaded this.
Whoa. I have that whisk at home. Very exciting. This is actually made by IKEA, and it seems very much in line with the way... You look in the background, you can hear children, delighted children, living in a Scandinavian paradise. Yeah, that's not going to get old, isn't? In Scandinavia, this is what the view looks like. It's just a kind of a socialist paradise stretching out in every direction. Okay, let's have a go. Let's have a go. I'm tangling myself up terribly, so I might die while doing something with this. Okay. Whoa! This is amazing. Are you watching? Are you witnessing this? Oh, that's not so. No one's happy there. Ah! Yeah, you might not want to eat this when it's done. What does that say? I can't. That says shoveling snow. You see a little bit of family tension there. I like it. This is crazy. We have this. This thing. I have this. I put it together, and let me tell you, the wheels are a bit of a pain to get on. You pull it out. They've got it. Oh, they've got books in it. That's a nice idea. We've just got like old packets of Lady Grey tea in ours. What I'm going to say is, where are you, Chris? Are you over here? Would you like some of this? I made it.
Yeah, I don't think you understand how VR works.
It's fresh. It's lovely. That looks like. Is that like cilantro on top? I don't know. Anyway.
At this time, we didn't know that it wasn't super easy to get these guys reviewing your game. So that was nice. We launched it in the name of co-creation. So what we said is that we're going to listen to people, what they want, and if they want something special, we will update. And I was thinking, okay, they will probably want to have more colors, open more drawers, adding new things, more like products. But the overwhelming response was that everybody was lacking the meatballs. This is unrealistic. You can't have an IKEA kitchen without meatballs. This doesn't feel real. Those kind of things. And I was hoping that would only be a few comments, but it wasn't. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and this was the overwhelming response. We want meatballs. And I called the manager you saw earlier and told him that, okay, we know what they want. Yeah, give it to them. He said, okay, you don't know what they want. They want meatballs. And he said, what? But we had an idea. We were just launching vegetables, vegetarian meatballs, so we could make a thing of this. So 20 days after the first launch, we made this update, and the only communication was this. And the response in social media was, boom, again. And if you look for news articles and so on, you will see a lot of news just talking about a big wrong has been right, now the meatball kitchen is there and everything. And if you are on Steam, or if you know about Steam, you get a community site for free, and you can't really turn it off. And this is the comments on the community site. And also more YouTube videos. And if you take one of those things in there, this guy summed it up really well. Then we continued in this mode because people wanted the pencils in there because they wanted to steal them. And then we used it for the catalog launch in August, and I had an idea, why not try this room as a cat? So you can become cat size and jump around. And somewhere in September, a guy called Nerdcubed, I don't know if you know him, a guy who makes YouTube videos, made a thing that has now been seen by over 450,000 people. And he is playing Star Wars in the beginning, then he spends like 13 minutes in the IKEA kitchen, and the last 3 minutes he's going, that's almost berserk. And I will show it to you. I haven't put in beeps in here, so everyone who is like native English, just shut your ears a little bit, because his language is not really proper. Do you have sound? No sound? This is not fun without sound. So let's see if I can just restart it and run it again. Try again. Don't get any sound out? Okay. I'll stop it for a few seconds. If we can't make it work, then you have to just find it. Let's see if it's off somehow. Do you have anything now? No, nothing. Okay. Okay. That's too bad. I have no clue why that happened. Nothing now? See? Now, okay. Look this guy up, please do. And fast forward to about 16 minutes in, you will find it. He's becoming cat size, making meatballs, jumping around in there. It's quite fun. And the point I want to make around this is, as there aren't that many people who have these devices, when people are doing videos of them and then showing them to other people, it's actually more people seeing that than the actual thing. And this is the way it is at the moment. So, going to some statistics. After the first month, we released this little showroom, this 5-minute experience. We were number 5 in downloads, overall, game included. That was crazy. And 5 months in, I found this from a conference in Los Angeles. In this, they rate us as number 1 before Star Wars and Disney in downloads. We were up at 92% of the possible headsets that's out there actually downloaded this thing. And to finalize this little project, we were nominated for Most Creative Use of Marketing in VR last fall in London, and we won. I think it was actually the Meatballs that won, but that's something else. So if you look at what we have been doing with augmented reality and virtual reality, augmented reality started in 2012. I think most people have figured it out now when we have IKEA Place up and running, and it came in 2016, but we have been doing it for a long time. And virtual reality, we have a few things up and running, but not anything really big yet. So, why? Why do we do this? You could ask yourself. So, and also, why do we care? And what needs to change? So, the last thing, why are we interested? It's that I think at least that IKEA is a little bit different than most other companies. Most other companies in retail, they, at least in furniture, they sell single pieces. We don't. We try to sell function. That means that the relation between things is what we sell. We try to make things work together. Like this space. There is a reason why the storage unit is where it is, because it's easy to get things. There is a reason why products live close or not close to each other. That means that the 3D space is important. That means 3D is important. That's the reason. That's why we are interested. So what needs to change then? Yeah, we need a way of describing combinations and a generic way that we can then export to anyone. So how do we tell these things that they should end up like that? And not having to kill this down as a geometry. I'm talking in front of 3D people now, so you know what I mean. I don't want a dead geometry there. I want something that uses those to combine that. Some kind of configuration language that is open source that everybody could use. I haven't seen anything that really works. Some things in the architectural BIM things, but they a little bit closed. One other thing we have to solve, or not we, you guys, is this. Sorry. Let's see if this video runs. I'm going back one, forward one. Yeah, it's very slow. It doesn't really matter. It's actually better in slow motion. We have to be able to do this with products. All the textiles, everything that is like not defined, we have to be able to play with. And our customers want to do this. Or you have to help me persuade IKEA stop selling textiles, and I never think that will happen. So, because we love the textiles. So we have to solve this somehow, because we can't show this range if we can't do this. There are a lot of other things that we have to do. My problem when I try to find solutions for this is that the IKEA needs are in the middle of film, game, CAD, and architecture. Film, we want the image quality. Game, we want to do it in real time. CAD, we have a lot of CAD data. And architecture, we need to be in an architectural space with doors, windows, power outlets, and also be specific for every country, because every country's homes looks different. So, real time for us. We are aiming with real time somewhere on the other side of 2020. We have, of course, done things with IKEA Place and so on. And why am I saying that? Yeah. Going back to the many, we want to be for the many. And many is at least 100 million. So if there is not more than 100 million devices out there, it's not and then it's just for internal use cases. We have 100 million people in our loyalty program. So if there is not 100 million devices available, then of course every person in the loyalty program can't have a device. So if you want to do something that everybody is going to use, that's a rule of thumb for me. There has to be that. And there is a lot of things going on at the moment, but they have not that many devices. So, our roadmap for the next 30 years. Sorry. We have one. We are a company who is not on the stock market. We can have one. The only thing I can say is that we think it will be a huge change. Most people think that it will be a huge change. It will probably change faster than it has in the past. That's the thing we think, at least. And that's why we started something in this area. We started things in many areas, but we start things in this area we call IKEA Digital Lab that I'm running. And in that lab, we are looking at technologies, and we're looking at 9 areas. And I talk about this publicly because I want to find people who can solve things in these areas. So we're trying to do this with startups, big companies, or universities, whoever. So those areas are rooms in virtual or mixed reality. So the architectural space, trying to figure out how that works. Products, combinations, how do you store them, how do you move them, how do they make them work everywhere. Simulation, how do you handle textiles, how do you simulate subsurface scattering or refraction in real time, how do you do those kind of things. How do you understand the room you're standing in? Like, probably with artificial intelligence, trying to do some photometric or something with the data you get, how can we understand the room you're in? How can we recreate that room with some kind of artificial intelligence, probably, to be able to give you new suggestions for that space? All of these are for the eyes. That's not the only sense that needs to be changed or have stimulation. So we need to have sound. We would like to be able to experience as someone else, as your cat, or someone you live with, or something else. It could be that the person you live with is colorblind, or something that makes the world they see different from yours. Can you feel this? We want to share, and I'm not talking about Facebook sharing. I'm talking about really being present in the same virtual or mixed reality space. And we want to touch. and we want to smell. We sell scented candles. We sell things on smell. And then we have taste, but that's probably very far down the road. Maybe never. So these 9 areas is where we try to do small exploration projects, and that's what I'm doing in the lab. And the lab has been up and running for 1.5 years, so it hasn't been long. Just to show you something we do in the lab, one thing we do in the lab is that we have joined Kronos Group. Most of you guys knows what this is. And what we are really interested in here is the GLTF that is not good enough now, but could be a generic way of doing 3D. We are also a little bit interested in the OpenXR, just looking at it. And then I want to show you one project from the lab to give you an idea of what we are playing with. So what you see here is a sharing experience with the device HoloLens. So you see me, I'm the blue guy up there, and then you have a yellow user and a green user. And what we are trying here is trying to, well, it doesn't play well. Let's see if I go back again. No, it doesn't play. Yeah, now it plays. So what you see here is me placing out a furniture, somebody else seeing that. So this is sharing an experience. This is about a year old, this thing we tried. And trying to share that is a little bit hard because you have to sync those realities that the different people see. I'm sorry that it's slow. I've shown this at another event and the other things too in November. So there are public things around this on Vimeo. Okay, finalizing. We work with products and functions in the home. We don't really work with technology. Technology for us is a way to reaching the customer. Because we don't sell technology, we don't sell the experiences, we want to explain what we do and how you work with our products. We think, and many people think, that in the future, either 10 or 20 years from now, this will be an integrated part of people's lives. We won't affect that, and we will probably not drive it, but when it happens, our customers will be there, and then we need to be there too, as everybody else. It's like saying the mobile phones today. Like 10, 12 years ago, nobody was talking about selling things through a mobile phone. Today is what everybody's talking about. So this might happen here. And if it does, it's a game changer for anyone. And that's why we're interesting. And if you are working with 3D and computer graphics, this is awesome. Because most of these things needs to be done. And that's so interesting. So, thank you.